The first time I stepped in their dog's crap barefoot, I thought it was an accident. The third time, I knew it was war. I live in a small, peaceful suburb, white fences, trimmed hedges, kids on scooters. It's the kind of place where people wave at you whether they like you or not. After my divorce, I moved here to start over. Just me, my little one-story house, and a backyard garden I put my whole heart into. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Then came him. Big golden retriever. Name tag said Champ, which was ironic because he was an Olympic-level menace. One morning I found him in my yard digging like his ancestors had buried gold under my dahlias. Another day, he was chewing my garden hose like it owed him money. And always, always, he left something behind. Right in the middle of the yard. Sometimes on the porch. Once, right on the welcome mat. I went over to talk to his owners, the Whitmans. New couple, early 30s. Drove matching Teslas. Smiled too wide. The kind of people who think saying, "Bless your heart," makes them saints. "Hi," I said. "Your dog keeps coming into my yard. Could you keep him on your side?" "Oh my God," the wife laughed. "Champ's such a rascal." Rascal? That rascal was turning my property into a public restroom. The husband added, "You should build a fence if you don't want dogs coming in." Right. I should build a fence to keep their dog out. That was the moment something in me snapped. I'd been polite, patient, grown up, and all I got in return was smug smiles and a yard full of landmines. I started keeping a log. Every time Champ came by, every hole he dug, every gift he left. I had timestamps, photos, video. I even caught the Whitmans watching him from their kitchen window as he wrecked my garden laughing. It wasn't just about the dog anymore. It was about dignity. It was about respect. And it was about to get ugly. Because if they wouldn't clean up after their dog, I'd give them something they couldn't ignore. Something they'd never forget. It started with holes in the yard. Then it got worse. After the Whitmans shrugged off my complaints, I figured maybe they'd at least take the hint. Maybe the awkward silence would make them feel the tiniest bit of shame. I was wrong. The next week, Champ showed up every morning. Like clockwork. Dug, dumped, disappeared. At first, I thought they were letting him out early, before work. But then I started noticing something. Every time I came out to chase him off, their blinds would twitch. Just a flick. A ripple. Like someone inside was watching, waiting to see what I'd do. I started to get that feeling in my gut. The one you get when you know someone's messing with you on purpose. I let it slide. Until the sprinkler incident. That Saturday, I spent 5 hours fixing the irrigation system in my garden. Brand new sprinkler heads. Releveled the soil. Tuned the pressure just right. Sunday morning, I woke up early, coffee in hand, ready to enjoy the fruit of my labor. Instead, I found 2 sprinkler heads snapped off. Clean. As if someone had stepped on them deliberately. Champ's paw prints were in the mud. But there were footprints too. Adult ones. And not mine. I stormed over. Knocked on their door. No answer. I knocked again. Harder. The door finally creaked open. Just a little. "Yeah," the husband muttered, like I was the one bothering him. "I think someone's been in my yard," I said. Again. "And now my sprinklers are broken." He raised an eyebrow. "You sure your dog didn't do it?" "I don't have a dog. Maybe you should get one. For protection." He smirked and closed the door. I stood there stunned. I don't know what was more offensive, the sarcasm or how proud he looked. After that, things escalated like it was a game to them. One night, I came home to find garbage bags in my driveway, torn open. Food scraps everywhere. The smell was vile. Bananas, chicken bones, something gelatinous. I cleaned it up. Didn't say anything. The next night, more trash. Only this time, it had been thrown onto my porch. Someone had clearly launched it. Same paw prints. Same adult shoe prints. I bought a motion sensor light and aimed it right at the yard. The very next day, I got a notice from the HOA. Excessive brightness. Neighbor complaints. Please redirect or remove outdoor lighting that may disturb adjacent homes. Guess who signed it? Mrs. Whitman. Her sloppy cursive was still visible through the scanned PDF. They started filing complaints like it was a hobby. Noise violations when I used my lawnmower at 3 p.m. on a Sunday. Inappropriate landscaping choices because I planted lavender along the fence. Hostile behavior because I looked at them too long while taking out the trash. Meanwhile, Champ kept showing up, digging deeper, barking louder, pooping bigger. And one day, I caught Mrs. Whitman on her phone, standing in my driveway, taking pictures of my house like she was collecting evidence. I opened the door. She pretended not to see me and kept snapping away. "Can I help you?" I called out. She flinched, gave me this fake, sugary smile. "Oh, I'm just documenting a property line issue. Your bushes are overgrown." My bushes were inside the line, barely touched the edge of the driveway. She turned around and walked off before I could say anything else. That night, I reviewed the trail cam footage again. There she was, 2:12 a.m. wearing slippers and a hoodie, sneaking into my yard with a flashlight. Champ wasn't with her. She bent down near the garden, looked around. Then she buried something. I watched the footage 3 times, just to be sure. I ran out the next morning, straight to the spot. There it was. A half-buried piece of raw chicken, covered in hot sauce. What kind of psychopath tries to bait a dog into more destruction? I didn't report it. Not yet. Why? Because now I had proof. And now I had a plan. But it didn't stop there. They upped the game again. One afternoon, I got home from work and found a city inspector standing in my yard, clipboard in hand. "Are you the owner of this property?" I blinked. "Yeah. Why?" "We received a report that you're building an unpermitted structure in the backyard." I looked past him. He was pointing at my garden shed, the one that's been there for 4 years. "No, that's a shed. It's registered." I filed the paperwork when I moved in. He checked his clipboard. "Well, someone reported recent activity. Said you were turning it into a livable space, without permits." He inspected it anyway. Found nothing. But that's when it clicked. They were trying to bury me in red tape, harass me legally, drown me in noise, all while their dog still tore up my yard. That's when I started writing everything down. Every complaint, every insult, every picture, every late-night visit. Every time I caught them just standing there watching me from their windows like bored royalty judging the peasant across the fence. Then came the fire. It wasn't huge. It didn't burn down the house. But it was on purpose. I found it in the back corner of my yard, near the compost bin. A small pile of scorched paper, twigs, and melted plastic. Someone had tried to start it, then smothered it. Probably a test. I called the fire department. They investigated. Filed a report. I filed one too. Guess who magically had no camera footage facing that side of their property? Guess who hadn't seen anything unusual? Guess who stood in their driveway with arms folded, watching me the whole time the firefighters walked my yard? This wasn't just about a dog anymore. It wasn't even about the garden. It was about control, territory, intimidation. And they thought I'd roll over. But here's the thing. I don't roll over. They thought they were clever, death by 1,000 cuts. What they didn't know is that I was already bleeding. And people who've already lost everything, they don't play fair. They burned the whole damn game board. The fire should have been the last straw. But they weren't done. They were just warming up. A week after the fire, I came home from work to a bright yellow notice stuck to my front door. Code violation. Unsecured trash bins. $125 fine. Funny thing is, I hadn't even taken the bins out yet. I checked my security footage. There it was 6:42 a.m. Mr. Whitman, in gym shorts and a hoodie, walked over to my driveway, opened my trash bin, and tipped it over. Then walked away like he was watering plants. An hour later, a city truck rolled up and took pictures. Another anonymous complaint. I called to appeal. The woman on the phone sounded bored. "You'll need to file a formal dispute. Processing time is about 6 to 8 weeks. Meanwhile, the fine was due in 10 days. I started losing sleep. Lying awake, staring at the ceiling, heart racing every time a branch hit the window. I kept thinking I'd wake up to broken windows, slashed tires, or worse, that they'd do something to me. I started double locking my doors, kept the porch light on, got a camera for the back fence, another one for the side gate. It wasn't enough. One morning, I left for work and found nails scattered at the end of my driveway. Not roofing nails, not random debris, 3-inch finishing nails, lined up perfectly, all pointing inward, like teeth in a trap. I stared at them in silence for a long time. Then I swept them up and went to work. At lunch, I got a call from HR. "Hey," my manager said, voice low, "we got an anonymous tip saying you've been using company time to stalk your neighbors." I laughed out loud. She didn't. They submitted screenshots from your social media. They'd found an old post where I'd mentioned Champ. One post. A joke. "Can't wait for this dog to eventually dig a tunnel under my house and kill me in my sleep." Hashtag suburb life. That was it. Now I was being investigated for harassment. It didn't go anywhere, thankfully, but the damage was done. People at work started looking at me sideways, like I was unstable. I started keeping to myself, which made it easier for the Whitmans to keep winning. They sent someone to cut the tree that shaded my porch. Didn't ask, just claimed it was growing past the property line. It wasn't. I came home to find it hacked in half. A stump where my favorite shade tree used to be. My garden dried out within 2 weeks. No coverage. Full sun. I tried to talk to them again. One last time. "Hey," I said, voice shaking, "I don't know what your problem is, but this has to stop." Mr. Whitman smiled like a kid caught stealing cookies. "I'm just maintaining my property. You're destroying mine. Prove it." Then he stepped closer. Real quiet. "You know, some people just aren't meant to live in this neighborhood." I stared at him. He walked away. They posted about me on Nextdoor. Claimed I was unstable. A hoarder. A known aggressor. They posted blurry photos of me in the garden. Bent over, working. One post said I was seen digging at night with a shovel. It was a Tuesday. I was planting mint. Neighbors started avoiding me. Whispering. Crossing the street when I walked outside. Someone spray-painted freak on my mailbox. I filed reports. No one followed up. Even the HOA stopped responding. I was alone. And then my sister called. "Are you okay?" She lives 2 states over. "We talk once a month." "I got this weird message," she said. "Someone emailed me from a burner account. Said you were being investigated. That you were dangerous." I didn't know what to say. She believed me eventually. But that didn't stop the panic attack I had after we hung up. I sat on the bathroom floor for over an hour, back against the door, lights off. I couldn't breathe. I stopped tending the garden. Stopped answering the door. I canceled a work trip because I didn't want to leave the house unattended. Started eating microwave noodles and drinking coffee at midnight just to stay alert. The cameras caught movement every night. Sometimes it was a possum. Sometimes it was them. One night, Mrs. Whitman just stood there, on the edge of my lawn, in a robe, not moving, just staring at the camera, for 30 full seconds. Then she turned around and walked home. I started keeping a bat by the door. And then, one morning, it happened. I found my dog's collar in the yard. Problem is, I haven't had a dog since 2014. It was the same brand, same pattern, same tags I used to have on my old Labrador, Tucker. They must have found it online, somehow, but it was his. Exactly the same. Same dent in the metal ring, like it had been twisted and pulled. They'd made a copy and planted it in my yard, like a threat, like they were inside my head now, digging up memories. That was it. That was the line. I stood in the kitchen, collar in my hand, shaking. My whole body was buzzing, with rage, with grief, with something deeper than hate. It wasn't about getting even anymore. It was about ending it, because these people didn't want to win. They wanted to erase me, and I wasn't going to let that happen. I said it out loud. Enough is enough. It's time for revenge. The collar sat on my kitchen table for 3 days. I didn't touch it, didn't move it, just stared. That chewed-up leather strap with Tucker's old tag on it, it was too perfect, too personal, like they'd done homework on me. I kept thinking, how far are they willing to go? And then I thought, how far am I? I started with the obvious. Poison their lawn? Too risky. Call animal control? Done it. They sent a letter. The Whitmans framed it. Buy an air horn and blast it through their windows at 3 a.m. every night? Tempting, but noisy and very illegal. One night, I even stood at the property line with a bottle of fish sauce, planning to dump it into their AC intake. But I stopped. Not because I felt bad, because it was sloppy. If I was going to do this, it had to be clean, precise, and permanent. I made a list, titled it Ways to End the Whitmans Without Going to Jail. It wasn't long, but one idea kept circling back in my brain like a vulture. What if I could make them destroy themselves? That was the key. I didn't need to attack. I just needed to expose them. Let the world see what I already knew. They weren't victims. They were the virus. I just had to push them into showing it. First, I started collecting everything. Every video, every photo, every complaint. I printed copies, highlighted timestamps, made a timeline with receipts, HOA letters, city notices, and screenshots. It felt insane, putting it all together like a conspiracy board. But when I finished, it was airtight. Next, I set up a decoy. I ordered a fake construction permit sign online, posted it in my yard right next to my garden bed, even had it laminated. Then I left it there. 3 days later, boom, anonymous complaint to the city. A man from zoning showed up. He looked tired, carried a clipboard. This about the shed again? I asked. He squinted at the permit sign, then at me. No, this is new. Says you're building a water feature. I smiled. It's a bird bath. He sighed. I'll note it. Strike one. Next, I accidentally left a package out on my porch, addressed to Animal Control Evidence Enclosed. Inside, blank paper and a dog toy. 2 nights later, trail cam caught Mrs. Whitman walking up the porch, trying to read the label. Strike two. They couldn't help themselves. All I had to do now was bait the trap. The real plan began with a little light stalking. Totally legal. Just observation. I figured out Mr. Whitman worked remotely most days, but left on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Gone from 11 to 4. Probably some kind of part-time tech consultant gig. I also noticed a strange detail. They had 2 mailboxes. One was the regular black box on a post. The other, a little locked cube bolted to their front wall. No address. No label. Took me a while to figure out what it was. Package drops. He was running a side hustle. Probably something he didn't want tied to his name. And Mrs. Whitman? She was in 2 Facebook mom groups, both under fake names. Same profile picture. Different bios. Same posts. She was feeding community drama, anonymous rumors, gossip about dangerous neighbors. One account even posted that I had tried to lure kids into my backyard with candy. I took screenshots, made backups, archived the whole thing. Strike 3. By this point, I had 2 full binders of material. I named them Binder 1, the Dog Files Binder 2, the human garbage fire I could have gone to the HOA, or the city, or even court. But that's what they expected. That's what normal people do. I wasn't playing normal anymore. Instead, I went to Karen. Her real name, I kid you not. She lives 3 houses down. Runs the neighborhood Facebook group and the HOA landscaping committee. She also has a lawn that looks like it belongs in a golf commercial and a telescope she swears is for stargazing. Karen was the self-elected mayor of our street. And she hated the Whitmans. About time someone did something, she said, flipping through Binder 1 like it was a crime thriller. I asked her one question. If I had hard evidence they were violating HOA policy, zoning laws, and possibly committing mail fraud, would you help me blow this wide open? She didn't blink. Oh, honey, she said, let me get my wine. Over the next 3 weeks, we became a 2-person neighborhood intelligence agency. Karen sent her book club friends to jog past the Whitmans' house and take notes. We tracked when they left the dog out, when they dumped trash in the street, when their sprinkler system mysteriously soaked the sidewalk for hours and flooded Mrs. Diaz's basement. We even found out the Whitmans had a 3rd short-term rental in the neighborhood under a different LLC, not allowed under HOA rules. Illegal subletting. Strike 4. Every violation was logged, labeled, collated. Karen contacted the real HOA president, a retired attorney with 0 patience for games. He reviewed everything and scheduled a private meeting. The night before the meeting, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was nervous, because I was excited. I stood in my dark kitchen, looking out the window. The Whitman's house was lit up like always. Big glowing windows, string lights in the backyard, fake chair behind every LED bulb. Champ barked once, then went quiet. I whispered to myself, "Tomorrow, you learn what it's like to feel powerless." That morning, I put on my cleanest shirt and packed both binders into a tote bag like a lawyer walking into court. Karen brought donuts. We sat across from the HOA board at a long table under flickering office lights. One of them had a gavel. Unnecessary, but dramatic. I presented everything. Timeline, photos, footage, screenshots of burner accounts, screenshots of them accusing me of crimes, screenshots of Mrs. Whitman posing as a concerned neighbor talking about my mental decline. Halfway through, one of the board members leaned forward. "Is this all real?" I nodded. Karen sipped her coffee and added, "And we have more." They didn't say anything for a long time. Then they told us to leave the binders and go home. "We'll be in touch." As I stepped outside, the sun hit me in the face like it was celebrating. I hadn't won yet, but the first domino had tipped. Now all I had to do was finish the rest of the plan, because the HOA was just phase 1. Phase 2? Well, let's just say the Whitmans should have read the fine print before deciding to screw with someone who's got nothing to lose and plenty of free time. They thought revenge was a game. I'm about to show them what checkmate looks like. Revenge doesn't happen all at once. It comes in layers. Slow, quiet, surgical, like rot under a perfect smile. And the Whitmans? They were about to start rotting. The HOA sent them the first notice on a Monday. Violation of property maintenance codes, unauthorized short-term rentals, illegal signage, harassment allegations under review. I didn't get to see the exact letter, but I did see Mr. Whitman read it in the driveway. He didn't say a word, just stood there holding the paper like it was covered in mold. Then he crumpled it and shoved it in the trash. Strike one. That same afternoon, a city zoning officer pulled up in front of their house. He knocked, took photos of their side yard, measured something near the garage. Mrs. Whitman came out in her slippers, holding her phone like a shield. I watched from inside my living room. Lights off, curtains cracked. She was trying to stay calm. You could tell. She kept laughing, over-explaining. The zoning guy didn't laugh. He just nodded, wrote something down, and handed her a card. When she turned to go back inside, she looked right at my window. We locked eyes for a full second. I didn't blink. Phase 2 was the burner accounts. Remember those fake Facebook profiles Mrs. Whitman ran? The ones she used to stir up drama in the neighborhood group? Gone. Reported. Flagged. Removed. Karen's book club army handled it like digital assassins. One by one, they filed coordinated reports, citing harassment, impersonation, misinformation. By the end of the week, both accounts were banned. And guess what? She tried to rejoin the neighborhood group under her real name. Karen denied the request, and then posted a very sweet, very polite message. Friendly reminder, only real, verifiable accounts are allowed here. No more trolls, burners, or whisper campaigns. Let's keep this group neighborly. No names, no accusations. But everyone knew. I expected rage. Instead, what I got was silence. No barking, no trash, no late-night footsteps. Nothing. Like they'd gone underground. Part of me wondered if I'd gone too far. If maybe, just maybe, I should stop now. But then I remembered the color. I remembered the fire. And the mailbox. And the sick feeling in my chest when I saw my sister cry on the phone. No, we weren't done. Not even close. The next move took a little more finesse. Remember that second mailbox? The one bolted to their wall? The one used for drop-offs? Yeah, I reported it to the Postal Inspection Service. You know who takes mailbox fraud seriously? The federal government. I submitted photos, descriptions, even a timestamp delivery from a shady courier caught on my cam walking up and shoving a padded envelope inside. I didn't expect much, but 2 weeks later, a plain white car pulled up. Badge on the dash. 2 men in polos knocked on the Whitman's door. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw the tension. Mrs. Whitman clutched her robe like it was armor. Mr. Whitman kept rubbing his neck. Eventually, one of the agents pointed at the wall box. I watched them unscrew it, bag it, tag it. When they drove off, Mr. Whitman slammed the door so hard it rattled my windows. 2 days later, I got a knock on my door. It wasn't the Whitmans. It was a woman I didn't recognize. Maybe early 50s. Expensive handbag. Tight smile. Hi, she said. Are you the homeowner? Yes. I'm a realtor. I represent the Whitmans. They're thinking of selling. Would you be willing to answer a few questions about the neighborhood? My heart jumped, but I kept it cool. Sure. She glanced at her clipboard. Would you say this is a peaceful area? I smiled. Usually. Not always. But we're working on it. She nodded. Any concerns with neighbors? I raised an eyebrow. You're standing in my driveway asking about the people selling their house because they've alienated everyone within 3 blocks. What do you think? She blinked. Didn't say anything else. Just wrote something down and left. That night, the trail cam picked up something weird. Champ. Alone. Wandering the edge of the yard, sniffing. No leash. No collar. I watched the footage 3 times. Zoomed in. Enhanced. They've let him out unsupervised. Again. And this time he looked lost. He didn't dig. Didn't bark. Just sat near my fence for 10 minutes. Then trotted home. I didn't feel anger. I felt pity. For him. Not them. Because animals aren't evil. People are. That weekend, the Whitmans hosted a barbecue. A last-ditch social stunt. I counted 6 guests. They set up a speaker, played country music, laughed too loudly. No one else showed up. The neighbor stayed inside. Even the Diaz kids, who usually run wild every Saturday, didn't come out. And me? I sat on the porch, iced tea in hand, watching them like a nature documentary. At one point, Mr. Whitman looked over. I raised my glass. He looked away. Then came the letter. HOA resolution meeting. All parties involved. Scheduled for Friday. I'd be facing them directly. Across the table. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt something else. That pre-storm stillness. The moment before the final card gets played. Because I wasn't done yet. Not until they lost everything they built on my misery. And I had one more card to play. The one thing I hadn't used yet. The thing they didn't know I had. The ace in the hole. Waiting. Watching. And ready to be revealed. Friday came fast. I didn't eat breakfast. Didn't sleep much the night before either. I just sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the binder. Binder 2. The human garbage fire one. I had gone over it 100 times. Everything was ready. Everything had to be ready. The meeting was in the HOA office. Neutral ground. Beige walls. A single ceiling fan that squeaked like it was gossiping. There were 6 people at the table when I walked in. Karen. 2 board members. The HOA president, retired lawyer, no patience for nonsense. Mr. and Mrs. Whitman. And 2 empty chairs. One for me. One for the property manager. Everyone looked up as I sat down. No one smiled. The president cleared his throat. This meeting is to review a series of complaints and alleged violations involving both parties. Let's begin with the timeline. He looked at me. I opened the binder and handed out copies. Labeled. Indexed. Highlighted. Dates. Screenshots. Footage stills. Transcripts of online posts. It landed like a body on the table. Mrs. Whitman scoffed. Mr. Whitman leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. This is ridiculous, he said. The president ignored him. Please continue. I started slow. The noise complaints. The garbage. The dog. The mailbox. Their eyes rolled. Shifted. Mrs. Whitman muttered under her breath. I stayed calm. Clinical. Then I showed them the video. The one from 2:12 a.m., Mrs. Whitman sneaking into my yard, bearing the raw chicken laced in hot sauce. You could see her face. Clear as day. Silence fell across the table. She spoke first. That's not me. Karen tilted her head. You're wearing your blessed mama hoodie. No, I'm not. The board member to my left leaned in. "You're wearing it right now." Mrs. Whitman looked down. Same hoodie, same bleach stain on a sleeve. Then came the emails, the burner accounts, the fake complaints, the posts in the mom group accusing me of trying to lure children. I passed out the printed screenshots. Mr. Whitman barked, "These could have been faked." I smiled. "I agree. That's why I subpoenaed IP logs." The HOA president raised an eyebrow. "I have a friend at the hosting company," I added. "This one's from your router. Your exact IP. Logged in under 6 different fake accounts. All created within a 24-hour window." Mr. Whitman's jaw clenched so hard I thought he was going to chip a tooth. I flipped to the last tab. A letter. Folded. Sealed. The president opened it. Inside was a report from the Postal Inspection Service. Unauthorized use of a private mailbox. Violation of mail handling regulations. Potential federal fine pending review. Mr. Whitman paled. That one hit home. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. The final play. I reached into my folder and pulled out a USB stick. "Security footage," I said. The property manager plugged it in. Footage filled the screen. March 3rd, 10:27 p.m. A man, Mr. Whitman, walking up to my driveway, looking around, reaching into his hoodie, then kneeling and scattering nails. Frame by frame, perfectly visible. Another board member whispered, "Jesus Christ." Karen gasped. Loud. Mrs. Whitman looked at her husband. "What the hell were you thinking?" He didn't answer. The president rubbed his temples. "I think we've seen enough." The verdict wasn't immediate. It didn't need to be, because the room had already shifted. They weren't neighbors anymore. They were predators. Exposed. And I was done being the prey. The final HOA ruling came 2 days later. Immediate fines for each confirmed violation. Cease and desist order on online harassment. Formal recommendation to law enforcement for trespassing and vandalism. Permanent ban from HOA board eligibility. And the cherry on top, a petition filed by 8 homeowners requesting their removal from the community. Guess who signed first? Karen. But that wasn't the real end. The real victory came the following weekend. I was mowing the lawn when I saw the U-Haul pull up. Big. Orange. Loud. Mr. Whitman was loading boxes in silence. No music. No barbecue. Mrs. Whitman stood on the porch, holding Champ's leash, wearing sunglasses she didn't need. She saw me. I waved. She didn't wave back, just turned away. Later that afternoon, Karen came by. She handed me a pie. "Peach," she said. "You earned it." I leaned on my rake and looked at the now empty driveway. Guess they didn't feel welcome anymore. Karen smiled. Guess not. I sat on the porch that night, watching the sun go down. It was quiet, peaceful. Champ didn't bark. No trash in the yard. No nails in the driveway. Just wind in the trees and the soft buzz of crickets. And for the first time in months, I exhaled. They thought they could torment me and get away with it. They thought I'd just take it. They didn't realize. Some people don't fight back with fists. We fight back with evidence, with patience, with surgical revenge. And when we strike, we don't miss. They were gone by Tuesday. No goodbye, no apology. Just an empty house and a trash bin full of broken furniture and bad karma. I stood in my yard and watched the last moving truck drive away. Didn't wave, didn't smile. Just stood there in the quiet, listening to the sound of my own peace. The neighborhood changed after that. People started talking again, waving, smiling. The Diaz kids came back outside. Karen started organizing actual block parties, not weird passive-aggressive bake sales, but real ones, with music and laughter. One neighbor even knocked on my door with a 6-pack and said, "Hey, thanks." I didn't ask what for. We both knew. The house next door sat empty for a few months. The grass grew long, windows dusty. A for sale sign faded in the sun. But it was quiet, beautifully, blissfully quiet. No barking, no digging, no tension in the air like a knife waiting to be thrown. I rebuilt the garden, took my time, planted tomatoes again. Lavender, a new rose bush in the corner. Named it Tucker. One night, I found a package on my porch. No return label. Inside, Champ's chew toy. No note. Just that slobbery, dirt-stained plush alligator. I stood there holding it for a long time. Then I set it down in the grass and walked away. Let the past go. People ask me if I regret it, if I went too far, if it was worth all the time, all the planning, all the anger. And here's the truth. I don't regret a damn thing. Because sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to become the storm they never saw coming. Not with violence, not with chaos, but with focus, patience, and receipts. I sleep easy now. No cameras on, no bat by the door. Just a quiet porch and a sky full of stars. The way it should have been from the start. Still, every now and then, I catch myself looking out the window at that empty house, waiting to see who moves in next, not out of fear, but curiosity. Because if the next neighbor thinks they can walk all over me, let's just say, I've done it once, and I know exactly where I keep the binders. End of story.